Hello, my name is Michael. You're welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'd like to wish you a happy new year. I hope it will be a more successful year. Today, I'm speaking on the topic career paths in IT industry for 2026 and beyond. It is very natural that at the beginning of every year, one has to project what he or she intends to do for the year, in which direction you want to go, what you want to develop in, what skills you want to acquire or also develop, as well as reflecting on the past. In this video, my aim is to provide you with as many useful and helpful information as possible that can fit into your decision-making process in order to make well-informed decisions. As you know, IT is a really broad environment, and you really need a roadmap personally to know which direction you would go, because there's so many things that are very interesting in IT, and if care is not taken, you find yourself in a cycle. And that's why this video has been made to help you streamline and prepare your path. So let's go and dive into it. Here, I have a tree which I have called the tree of IT career paths. There are 7 branches of this tree. Most, if not all, are well known. The first, starting with, in no particular order, is the IT network engineering branch. We have the DevOps. There is also the IT security, which is also housing the cyber security, design and architecture, software engineering, cloud, you can also call that cloud computing, and of course, the most recent, the artificial intelligence. Now we'll go into each of these branches and we'll see what are the relevant information that you would need in order to choose which one would fit your preferences. IT network engineering career paths and role. In this particular branch, you could find different kinds of roles, but these are the very common ones that you will find when it comes to IT network engineering. In this aspect, you will find technicians, you would find administrators, engineers, analysts, specialists, support persons, and of course, the management aspect of it. While in engineering, or let's say IT network engineering, there are certain things that you cannot avoid which are very relevant. And some of those things are you would talk to users, you would touch routers, you would touch switches, you would touch firewalls in some cases, and it also depends on the environment because the firewall is sitting in IT security as well as IT infrastructure generally. But it depends on the environment where you're operating in order to be able to get into that role of having to manage a firewall or do anything with respect to supporting things that relates to the firewall. And there are so many other titles that you will find out there which are related to IT network engineering career paths or roles. But the most important part of it is that know exactly which direction you want to go, and that should be fine with respect to the role. And these roles are also related to the experience that you have, the skills, the qualification, the certification as well. And the next phase would be the certifications that relates to this branch. So in most cases, if you're starting from scratch, you would usually go through things like the CompTIA certifications, which is very common and also very mature, I would say. And some of those certifications that relate to network engineering are the Network Plus, Server Plus, Linux Plus. There is also the A Plus as well, which is more on the hardware aspect of things generally. And so you can decide to pick those study material, read, study them, practice things that are possible to be practiced. And then the next one, which is very common, is the Cisco certifications. And here you have the CCNA, which is actually very, very popular. You have the CCNP and the CCIE, the CCDE, and so many other Cs within the portfolio of Cisco certification path. Of course, you have Juniper as well. You have the associate level, the professional, as well as the expert level, and they have several tracks. Don't worry about all of these acronyms. You will find details about them in the description where I share the links to get each and every information that is in this video. The next also is Arista certification, HP, Dell, and so many other vendors out there who are providing certain certification path for career advancement and things like that. So if you think this is a path that you really want to go into, then take your time, explore the options there, and even the ones that are not highlighted here. Make a decision, and if there will be need for you to get further support or clarification on your decision, please drop the comments and I will be happy to provide more information about it. Now we go to the next, the DevOps career. This is very relevant today because hardly would you be in a modern network today and you would not talk about automating one thing or the other, whether on the infrastructure side, or on the support side, on the provisioning side, deployment, and any aspect of it. You need the DevOps tools as well as skills. Maybe not in a very deep proportion as an expert in DevOps, but you need actually to touch and use some of these tools. And in this case, you would find DevOps, you will find DevNet, you will find DevNet Ops, that's the operational aspect, which is more or less the support part. You have the DevSecOps, which is dealing with the security aspect of development, as well as the operation. Then you have a combo of all of this, which can be found in specific places. So in some places, you have DevOps, which is taking care of almost everything. In other cases, you have the DevNet, which is already what it is, mainly network infrastructure. And it also depends on the environment and how they have structured the organization, as well as the resources that they have. As you know, for every vertical, you have the top level, which is the management. These are the parts that are responsible for the governance and strategy, as well as other managerial responsibilities that might come with it, basically. So that's mainly what we have in this case. And of course, the tools that they have GitLab. For sure, everyone uses GitLab today. They do a lot of scripting as well. Of course, you will find this in engineering. You will touch GitHub as well at some point. Jenkins, of course, for the pipeline and things like that. Then you also have JSON, which is very important today, especially when you are interacting with APIs and things like that. Basically, you need this skill set in order to be able to operate effectively in them. Now we will go to the certifications that are relevant to this. There are lots of vendors, again, that are providing certifications relating to DevOps related career. You will find a lot of it on AWS, Google, Microsoft. Cisco is offering the DevNet certification, which is really awesome as well. Then you will find this also in PeopleSet. And for those of you who don't know PeopleSet, this is the body that is responsible for ITIL. They also offer certain DevOps related certification and so many other vendors out there that are providing DevOps related certification. Now we go to the next. One of my favorites, IT security. This particular career is very broad, and you will find it relevant in every environment, regardless of whatever industry that this is operating. It's mainly, a twin of IT, I would say, but their focuses are different. That said, you would find out also that the career path and roles in security are very interesting. So you have the security engineer, you have the specialists who are specifically focusing on a particular task. You have the analysts who are doing the analysis of different things, trends, threats, vulnerabilities, patch management, and things like that generally. And you have the information security officer, which is also the chief information security officer in certain regards. You have the penetration tester or the ethical tester or the ethical hacker in some cases. You have the risk managers, you have the incident managers, you have the control as well as the policy managers. And of course, you have the management part, which is the governance. These are the top or senior management level. And here, in most cases, you are dealing with things that has to do with security at every level of the OSI model, even up to the human level, the physical level as well. Because you need control, you need to ensure that you put your safeguarding mechanism in an effective state. And to do this, you have to touch the firewall. You have to touch different kinds of keys for encryption, for decryption. You have to talk about cryptographic models as well as algorithms. You have to talk about HSMs, that's the hardware security modules. You have to talk about policies themselves. You have to talk about certificate for digital certifications and so many things, intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, and a lot of those ICE, for instance, for identity service management, basically. And so many other interesting aspects of security. And that's why it's not really exhaustible from the way I see it, because I work with these tools on daily basis. I'm an IT person, but also in design. But we'll get to design and architecture anyways. But it's very important to know that all of these career paths have certain convergence points, which helps you to understand the bigger picture in any scenario, in any environment. And so we'll go now to the certification part of IT security. And there are so many certification parts out there, which includes Cisco security certification. Of course, you will get some part of it in CCNA. Now CCNA is different from the way it was before. It has been converged into one single track, but it used to be that previously, some years back, there were separate tracks up to the CCNA level where you can have CCNA routing and switching, CCNA security, CCDA at the time for design and things like that. But now CCNA is converged into one, and CCNP security is where you have the separation. You also have the Cisco cybersecurity professional. I will share the link. You can check the description actually. So there are lots of this. Another, which is very, very important in this track, is the ISC2 certifications. Starting from the cybersecurity certification itself to system security, as well as CISSP, and you have the CCSP for the cloud security as well, and of course the architecture and the management aspect. All of these certifications are very relevant to security, but they are focusing on different aspects, which is why they separated their concentration based on the areas in which they are focusing on. You also have the Fortinet certification, which has the NSC from 1 to 8, and these numbers actually depicts the level of expertise that it offers. You have the Palo Alto network certifications as well. You have a similar situation. You have the Juniper, Checkpoint, Jack, and Isaka, and so many others that are out there focusing on different aspects. You talk about control, you talk about regulations, compliance, you talk about different things entirely, and standards basically are very important in the case of these controls as well as compliance. It's very important for us to know that there are several options that you could follow in order to achieve your personal career goals. Design and architecture. This part, I love it so much because it takes you a little bit above the technical, even though it has a lot of parts in the technical for its foundational aspect. And why I'm saying this is because it's more like a link between the technical domain as well as the business domain. And there are several aspects of it as well. So you have the design specialist who is responsible for designing the levels of the architecture that you might be designing, basically. Yeah, I know there are too many tautology there, but design deals with whether it's low-level design, how things should work. The architecture gives a higher level view of how things should work. So you have the high level design, you have the low level design as well, and then you have architecture sitting somewhere just giving you a broad view of everything, because the design aspect goes into details of what should happen within a system. But the architecture gives you a broader view of the modules of the system, how one module could represent a whole building and different aspects of it within itself. So the design describes how things are designed to work. And there are different kinds of architects. You have the application architect, you have the network architect, you have the security architect, the solution architect, enterprise architect, and business architect. And all of them are focusing on different core aspects of every business that they operate in, which is why it is important to first decide which direction you want to go based on one, your skill, your experience, as well as your personal powers or strengths, I would say, because it's very important to map your talent to the role that you want to take. There is a way your talent complements the knowledge that you have basically on something. So that's mainly what I would say in this case, because here you have a huge responsibility to make decisions based on certain criteria. And these decisions can present themselves in form of trade-offs where you have to find a balance and also not burn resources in a wasteful manner. And of course, you have to work with this trade-off in the context of business requirements, decision metrics. At the end of the day, you'll find out that constraints will come, but you still have to make decisions while considering those constraints. And that's basically what's important in most cases where you're meeting the goal of the business, being guided by the requirements that you have, the objectives that you have, as well as the constraints, and of course the resources here that are given in such scenarios. Again, you have the management aspect, who is talking about the governance aspect as well as the strategy aspect of things. And with respect to the certification, there are a lot of certifications that you can find that are relating to design and architecture. Cisco design certification is also there. You have the Juniper TOGAF for the enterprise or business architecture, foundational aspect, as well as the higher levels of it as well. And so many other cases. For instance, you have the cloud environment with its own architecture certification for the big logos out there. And I'm referring to AWS, Google, and Microsoft in the case of cloud-related environment, and so many other options out there. Now we move to the next. Software engineering. This particular path is also wide, and in most cases you will find DevOps environments thriving well in this environment, but they are not exactly the same, because the software engineer deals with the core aspect of software. DevOps, on the other side, doesn't do that as a core, but it also depends on so many factors that will make this look as if a DevOps person is a software engineer, but it's not. They are completely different, which is why it's important to take time and compare these roles as well as the career path and make a decision based on what works for you. And of course, you find different tools that the software engineer or software engineering career roles require. Things like JavaScript, Python. Of course, Python is used by almost all the roles for certain specific reasons. Of course, you have the C++ as well. and so many other tools out there that software engineers or software engineering roles require. So the software engineering role require these tools in order to function as expected. We'll now go to the certification part. Again, AWS, Google, Amazon, as well as other vendors out there provide the certification options that helps people to grow in this career path. And you can find the link in the description of this video. Cloud. Of all the career paths that we have seen so far, cloud is really, really broad. It's more or less a mirror of what has been existing from IT, networking to security, as well as software. But the difference here is that it's happening in a remote environment, different from the traditional on-premise environment that all of those were happening previously. Which is why you would see a convergence of all the tools that I was able to pick for each of those environments separately into this. Because the cloud is more like a convergence of any career that ever existed before in terms of IT. And here you will find administrators, you find engineers, architects, specialists, security persons in cloud, as well as DevOps, which is more like a native place where DevOps team operate, as well as other teams now. And of course, you have the management aspect as well, giving direction, leadership, providing governance, as well as the strategy that is guiding every decision that is made in this environment. The certification option is so wide as well. I was only able to put a few of them here in order to focus more on the key certifications or the most popular ones that are related to cloud. Here we have AWS, Google, Microsoft, ISC2, which is also very relevant for security. We have the Jack, which is also very relevant for security as well, and so many other options out there. And this is the very last one, AI. Just as you might have observed, AI is almost in everything that we do today. That's because it's still growing in terms of the adoption, the integrations that will happen with AI. But one thing is certain, it is applicable in a lot of environments for specific use. And one of the things that is very important to note is at some point, it will be very difficult for an IT person who is not AI literate to find a job. I'm not saying this to scare anyone, but the reality today is that many of the things that we do in IT usually get subjected to certain automations, or you can call them certain automated tasks. Now, when you take that and go further to self-driven systems, then you need a decision or an intelligent system that can operate by itself to certain degrees, which is actually the drive for AI. Because a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, a lot of industries are looking for ways to make things more efficient. And in doing that, they are looking for systems which can reduce error due to human limitations. They are looking for efficiency. They are also looking for cost reductions. When you look at all of this together, you will find out that in certain number of years from now, that's even being generous about it. Because today, a lot of infrastructures in large-scale environments are gradually being operated to certain degrees by AI. And for that reason, it is important for every IT person to be AI literate and aware. And I'm not talking about, you have to do the core aspect of it, but you need to be knowledgeable to a certain extent using AI for your everyday activities, which is why it is important to find something to do with AI in the scope that is applicable to you. And there are so many aspects of it as well, as I've put up here. You have the infrastructure engineering aspect of AI, you have the prompt engineering aspect, you have the architecture aspect, because if you're going to operate the front end interacting with chatbots and agents or assistants, there is something going on at the back end, which involves the infrastructure engineering aspect as well as the architecture part of it. And that's why many of the IT jobs today will evolve into a different, we call them next generation roles, because they will be AI dependent. And I can imagine a network engineer today becoming a network director or automation director in the future. And what he will be doing is very similar to what is happening today, except that he will be the one writing the strategy or the scripts or the coordination or orchestration of many AI-driven models of the infrastructure in the future. But it's starting already, and these things are happening already. So it's very important to pay attention to AI, pick one aspect of it that is relevant to your daily job, and begin to practice with learning different concepts, study, put your hands on something, break, fix, learn. That's how you grow. And that's why it's important to take time, explore which aspect you want to do with AI. But very importantly, please ensure that you do not skip the basics, because whatever knowledge you acquire with AI, you will still need the basics. It's the foundation upon which whatever knowledge you would have eventually will be dependent on. And that's why I would say, please take your time, check this out, and select or choose which path you think will be applicable to you. Just like every other case, we have certifications also for AI, and these are also focused on different aspects, from infrastructure to prompt engineering to architecture of AI to specialists to even security. And of course, you have different aspects that deals with the management part of it. And the very last part is this, which is that at the end, the roadmap is in your hands. So you have to choose your path wisely. Thank you. And do not forget to like, share, subscribe. I also look forward to reading your comments as well. Thank you and bye.